Hello guys, I'm Eunjae Kim for We Learn to Share and welcome back to another video of political philosophy. But for today, we're going to take a little break from the political philosophy of different philosophers and we're going to go through some thought experiments and some other interesting stories regarding philosophy. Now, before we move on to the thought experiments, I would like to introduce you to the famous allegory of the cave. I hope and I assume that many of you guys have heard of this. And this is allegory of the cave was suggested by Plato in his famous Republic. And this is the story it holds. There are a group of people who, for their whole lives, have been chained to the wall. And for all of their lives, they were only facing the wall of the cave. The only way that they could interact and observe others were through the shadows of the objects projected to the wall from the fire that's behind them, just like the picture in the presentation. And since the shadows of the objects and the wall were the only things that they encountered throughout their whole lives, this is what they perceive as reality. But we know that the so-called reality they are looking at is nothing but a simple projection of the actual world. And even that representation is not perfectly expressing the actual one. And through this allegory of the cave, Plato wanted to explain that the world that we sense currently is actually just a representation of the true forms of the objects, and that the true forms of the objects can be perceived only through reason. And it is the philosophers who seek to interpret the higher levels of reality, like natural sciences, mathematics, deductive logic, and more. And now I'll provide you with several philosophical thought experiments. And the first one is the situation of an overcrowded lifeboat. This was suggested by an American ecologist, Garrett Hardin. And here's the story. A lifeboat has 50 people on board, and there are 100 more people who are in the ocean who needs help. They need to be rescued. However, the lifeboat can only hold a total of 60 people, which means that there are only 10 additional seats that is left for the people who are in the ocean. Only 10 more people can be rescued. Then in this situation, how should we choose the 10 people who needs to be rescued out of the 100? Should the ones who are about to die give up their places on the boat? And more questions like this will arise. And I would like to pause this video or take some time to think about it. And if you were in this situation, what will your choices be? Now I will hope that you would have thought about it, and I will tell you the answer Hardin suggested. Do you remember that I told you that Hardin was an American ecologist? And actually, the story about the overcrowded lifeboat is a metaphor. The lifeboat is the Earth, and it is talking about the situation of the overcrowded Earth and ways that we should approach this problem of the distribution of resources. The 50 people who were originally on the boat represent the rich, the elites, and the wealthy nations, and the 100 in the water are the poor. And Garrett Hardin, in the story, suggested that the 50 in the boat should not let any more people to be rescued. He said that the 10 empty seats must be kept empty, that they should be preserved to be able to react to the potential problems that might occur in the future. Now, the next thought experiment is called the liar's paradox. This derives from the words of Epimenides, an ancient Greek philosopher. But it is not quite sure if Epimenides was an actual philosopher who existed from the ancient Greek period, or if he was just a mythical character. Now, anyways, Epimenides stated that all Cretans are liars. But the point is that Epimenides himself was also from the island of Crete. This means if this statement is true, if the statement is false, then it means that all Cretans are telling the truth. However, Epimenides is from Crete, which means that the statement itself has to be true, which creates a contradiction. However, if we assume that this is a true statement, then it will mean that all Cretans are liars. However, Epimenides is from Crete, and this will mean that Epimenides is lying about the statement, which also creates a contradiction. Then how can we solve this? I'll pause this video and take some time to come up with a solution on your own. Now I will tell you the solution. We still need to assume that Epimenides is lying. But here, the part that is not true would be the part all. It is that not all Cretans are liars, which means that some exceptions will exist. But Epimenides does not necessarily have to be an exception here. Then, him making a false statement that all Cretans are liars and recognizing the exceptional Cretans who are not liars will still make sense. And the next and the last thought experiment that I would like to give you is the ship of Theseus. So basically, the question is that it asks whether a ship that has all of its elements and components replaced can be still called the ship of Theseus. And this starts from the story of Theseus in Greek mythology. Theseus is a founder and the king of Athens in the Greek mythology. He is known to be the one who has slayed the famous half-bull, half-man creature Minotaur and saved the children from the king Minos. And to honor Apollo for this achievement, Athenians took the ship on a pilgrimage. And with this, the ancient philosophers threw some questions. That after several centuries, the ship will have to be replaced to be able to continue the pilgrimage. But can the ship that had all of its elements and components replaced can be still called as the ship of Theseus? Now, I would like to leave this as an open question, and I would like you guys to think about it. And although I introduced you to only 3 thought experiments to think about, there are so many more paradoxes and dilemmas in philosophy. And if you're interested in such, try Googling it and taking some time to think about the questions. I really hope that this video was interesting for you to see, and see you in my next video, in which I will come back with the political philosophy of other philosophers. Thank you for watching, and see you in another video. Bye!